The Last Promise. On a cold autumn evening, 17-year-old Ethan stood at the old train station, holding a small backpack and a letter that had already been read so many times the paper had started to tear. It was the last letter his mother had written before she passed away. She had written, "No matter how difficult life becomes, never let pain turn your heart into stone. Kindness is the greatest strength a person can have." Ethan folded the letter carefully and placed it back into his pocket. Since losing his parents in a car accident 2 years earlier, life had become a series of lonely days. He lived with his uncle, who gave him food and a place to sleep but never warmth or love. Every morning Ethan worked before school, and every evening he returned to a silent house where nobody asked how his day had been. One rainy afternoon, while walking home, Ethan noticed an elderly woman struggling to carry several heavy grocery bags. Without thinking, he rushed over and helped her. "Thank you," she smiled. "Young people rarely stop anymore. My mother taught me to help others," Ethan replied softly. The woman looked into his eyes and somehow understood there was deep sadness hidden behind them. Over the next few months, Ethan visited her often. Her name was Margaret. She had no children and lived alone in a small cottage surrounded by flowers. She always prepared hot tea and listened to Ethan's stories without judging him. "You remind me that good people still exist," she would often say. For the first time in years, Ethan felt like someone truly cared about him. Winter arrived, bringing snow and freezing winds. One evening Ethan reached Margaret's house and found the lights off. The neighbors had already called an ambulance. At the hospital, doctors explained that she had suffered a heart attack. She survived, but her health was never the same. During one visit, she handed Ethan a tiny wooden box. "Promise me," she whispered, "don't open it until I'm gone." Tears filled Ethan's eyes. "I promise." A few weeks later, Margaret peacefully passed away in her sleep. At the funeral, only a handful of people attended. Ethan stood quietly in the back, unable to stop crying. It felt as if he had lost his family all over again. That night, he finally opened the wooden box. Inside were an old photograph, a silver key, and a handwritten letter. The letter read, "Dear Ethan, if you are reading this, I am no longer here. Thank you for giving an old woman happiness during the last chapter of her life. You never realized it, but you saved me from loneliness. The silver key opens a small storage room behind my cottage. Everything inside now belongs to you. But the greatest gift is not hidden in that room. It is hidden inside your heart. Never stop being kind, even when the world gives you reasons to become cruel. Love, Margaret." The next morning Ethan unlocked the storage room. Inside were hundreds of books, paintings, family photographs, and a small wooden chest filled with savings that Margaret had collected over decades. It wasn't enough to make him rich, but it was enough to change his future. Ethan used every dollar to finish school and later attend university. He studied to become a teacher because he never wanted another lonely child to feel forgotten. Years passed. His classroom became a place where every student felt welcome. He remembered every birthday, every dream, and every struggle. One rainy afternoon, a quiet little boy stayed behind after class. "My parents don't have time for me," the boy whispered. Ethan smiled gently. "I know exactly how that feels." From that day on, Ethan made sure the boy never felt alone. Many years later, Ethan grew old. His hair turned white, and wrinkles covered his face, but his heart remained gentle. On the last day of his life, he sat beside his bedroom window holding 2 letters. One was from his mother. The other was from Margaret. He smiled through his tears. "They kept their promises," he whispered. "And I kept mine." When the nurse entered the room a few minutes later, Ethan had quietly passed away with both letters resting against his heart. At his funeral, hundreds of former students gathered from different cities and countries. Some had become doctors. Some had become engineers. Some had become artists. Many of them stood before the crowd and repeated the same sentence. "One kind teacher changed my life forever." The world never remembered Ethan as the richest man. It never remembered him as the most famous. But it remembered him as the man who proved that a single act of kindness can echo through generations. Sometimes the greatest legacy is not money, power, or success. Sometimes, it is simply a good heart that refuses to stop loving, even after being broken.